Welcome to OutWithDan, the podcast that spotlights and examines the voices of LGBTQ+ authors, characters, and our allies. Together, we lift our voices and we tell our stories. I'm Dan White. Join me as I chat with this week's author. Hello and welcome back to Out with Dan. Today I'm excited to be talking with Lawrence Allan about Big Fat Fuck Up. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. This book is, it's just such a Jesus read. It's so quiet and unassuming.
It's a very calming, soul-filling read. You'll just it's like a nap.
With a couple of tears thrown in. So
definitely a few tears.
What a loving, irreverent romp this is. So just so fun. So tell us about Jimmy Cooper.
Well, Jimmy Cooper, he's a former child star and recovering addict who gets a second shot at fame as a famous private detective in Los Angeles. He was one of those like child stars who totally cratered his career, couldn't deal with pressures of fame, private stuff that had happened to him. And then along the way, his mother and his sister, who are both lawyers, they said, you got to clean yourself up. And so they gave him a job as the in-house private detective of their law firm. And at the beginning of this novel, he kind of gets thrust back into the public eye. And that's where we started.
I love it. He's so full of life and humanity, quirks and flaws. I mean, we all are. So I feel like Jimmy subscribes to all the A's, A, G, A, N, A, A, C. I mean, he's got all of those down pat. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. He's a bit of a walking id. Like he's still working on rebuilding, the filter that most of us still walk around with, which is great that he doesn't have a filter, because sometimes maybe we shouldn't filter out some of the stuff we do say, but like sometimes he steps in it because he just can't help himself, So.
I think that once there's a bit of celebrity in someone's life, you put on a different level than most average human beings, because you're catered to a bit. And I think, people ask you your opinion. What do you think about this? What do you want here? Yeah. And I think that filter sort of goes away because it's part of your life. But then when you have a life-altering experience, as Jimmy does, and then he's put in a different path, that filter he probably should find.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're right. I mean, there's kind of a different world that celebrities swim in. Like that's just a real thing. And their opinions about every little dumb thing that they get asked about, and they get asked about really dumb things.
Everything.
And like that can alter stuff. Like, if they have an opinion that might be unpopular to some, suddenly their movies crater. And so there's this navigation that they have to make, but they have to have an authenticity about them. So I think in Jimmy's point of the life in the book, he's still being a very authentic person, but maybe sometimes that authenticity might be a little bit too much. It certainly is for like his mom. I think some other people here and there. But yeah, Jimmy's a very he's saying what he's thinking and feeling, and he's certainly thinking what he's thinking and feeling.
And he's very real. So that's one of the things. That's one of the things that's so relatable about reading this book. It's a fun, fast read, and it's enjoyable. But he is exactly who he is, and that's something that you feel like when Jimmy's driving and you're in the car with him, exactly who he is. So he's your buddy along with the ride.
Yeah.
And of course, Los Angeles is definitely a character in this book as well.
Yes.
So what do you find fun about living here versus what you thought it would be like living here?
Oh, that's a good question. See, I thought you were going to go, what was it like living here versus New York City? I'm like, wow. What was it like? Oh, that's a good question. Because like, I remember, as a kid, I watched a lot of television, and they always had, filmed in front of a live studio audience in Burbank, or Studio City or, you know, CBS, what's the one on Fairfax? And so there was definitely that imagined LA, that kind of mythical, magical LA, which does exist, but there's also just the reality of like, it's going to take you 45 minutes to get across town, no matter where you're going.
True. Like, it can be the grocery store.
Yeah, you can be going 3 days. That's 5 blocks away. That's 45 minutes. But you could go to Burbank, and that will also be 45 minutes. Like, it's just going to be 45 minutes. Like,
at least.
And like, you're going to pass through, like, you know, some of the more less interesting places that's just boring. And then suddenly you'll be like in a neighborhood that's all like, you know, Spanish style revival homes that you're just like, oh, I want to live there. It looks so cozy. Or you get, or like you're almost run off the road when you're going over the Hollywood Hills because the roads are so narrow and like there's a canyon, or you hit a car. Like those are your options. So it's this lovely mix of myth and reality. And I will bring up New York because someone asked like, well, what's the difference between New York and LA? And like, what I love about LA is that it's the soup of dreams. Like, you can become somebody here. You know, we're like, I feel like in New York, you're kind of burned away and like, that's who you are. You know, where in LA, you can kind of come, change your identity, pursue your dream of screenwriting or acting or musician, you know, those
waiting tables.
Or waiting tables. You know, maybe, you know, or become a new internet celebrity. But there's a fantasy quality. Like, you know, like when you drive down like Sunset on a weekend, either during the day or at night, like it's all like this beautiful fantasy. But then there's always those periods where like, well, there's like, here's the Costco, and here's the fantasy, you know, like Target, and then the Sunset Strip. Like,
yes, yeah. I mean, everybody who watches television or movies that are about Los Angeles, you see the Sunset Strip. It comes up a lot. It's very small. It's very short. So it's not like it goes on for miles and miles. No, it doesn't. I mean, and I wouldn't take Sunset through Beverly Hills. I'd rather take one of the other ones, which is quicker. Sunset's pretty, but it just meanders.
So. Yeah, it just meanders. And then I mean, like, you could keep going. Like, one time, I don't know where we were coming home from, but I got off the 405, which is like, I hate the 405. And I got off the 405, and I was on Sunset, and I'm not sure which direction we were going, but I'm like, why am I not getting closer to home? I'm on Sunset. I'm going the right way. And I wasn't going the right way, but I was. You couldn't tell.
Even if you had, it would have been a long ways to get there. So Jimmy lives in a bungalow of a set of bungalows that I'm now riding the streets trying to find them.
You have to ride these streets. Ride these streets, Dan.
Larry, I will tell you that for anybody who's ever lived in Los Angeles, finding a nice place to live that's affordable is always a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like everybody wants to live at Jimmy's place.
Oh, it'd be great. It'd be great. It's like, it's you know, it's right in West Hollywood. Like, it's just, there's stuff to go and walk around, like people to see, people to hear, shops, food. Like, it'd be a great, like, no one can afford it. No one.
I will say that your characters, so we'll talk a little bit about Alicia Crowley and some of the other characters in the book. It's obvious that you model some of your characters after some things that we've seen. I'm assuming that was on purpose.
Or dumb luck, one of the two.
Or dumb luck, one or the other. But it works so well. I mean, here is Alicia who has the whole world at her feet, and she's afraid someone's trying to kill her.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how we get thrust into the main part of the book here. And I just love that because it's, you know, in real life, rich, famous people have issues just like the rest of us poor slobs do. And so that's what we see in this book, the dysfunction. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, dysfunction still exists. So tell us about Alicia and what she's trying to figure out that's going on.
Well, I mean, it's not a spoiler because it happens very early on. She believes her uncle is trying to kill her because she and her brother are about to come into the vast family fortune of a beer company. And so she's a, she's grown up pretty privileged. She's had the plastic surgery to make her look perfect, for better or for worse. But she's kind of this, what I love about Alicia, what I love about her is that she's this free spirit. She may not be like the most book smart person, but she's a walking bit of empathy. Like she means well. She may, shoot her targets a little poorly, but like she means well, and she's just a loving human being who's kind of caught up in these familial dynamics that have been baked into her life, like, since before she was born even. And so she's kind of swimming in that, and she's the kindest member of the family. I'll say that. And like
by far.
And so like, and so I think it's easy, like Jimmy wants to help her right away, because like, he sees himself in some ways in her, and I think it's, the desire to help somebody. But then for Jimmy, then like he throws himself into the fire, and he starts being worried whether or not he's actually equipped to do what needs to be done. But yeah, so yeah, Alicia, and then she's got a slightly younger brother, Harrison, who is he's kind of the Gordon Gekko, to use a little bit of an older reference for the kids out there. There was a movie called Wall Street, and like where she's a walking bit of empathy and has kind of has deep roots of spirituality. Harrison's like the exact opposite. He has trained himself hard to be a business machine. And then there's her mother, Samantha, who, there was problems in the marriage that she had with her now passed away husband. He's died many years before the book, so it's not about what happened.
Not about his death.
Not about his death. Somebody else dies. So it's kind of a family mess that Jimmy kind of.
I'm definitely seeing Stifler's mother. Just put that out there, and of course, and that of course appealed to me. One of the things I did want, because I want to sort of piggyback on something you said though. The thing about Alicia is I feel like she's such a mirror for all of the good things in Jimmy. Jimmy's trying, and I really thought that you did a great job in giving them both such humanity, and at different ends of the spectrum. Again, everybody has issues, but I felt like Jimmy was probably the one person who would get Alicia, and vice versa, and that was a good thing.
Yeah, they kind of found each other.
Yes. Yeah. A little bit of found family there.
Yeah, which is kind of the thing for Jimmy. Like he's had to kind of, he has his family, his mom and his sister, but he and his mom are not always on the same page. But he's had to kind of build his own found family with like Mo, the guy that lives in a bungalow near him, Bixby, his kind of former mentor who's not physically around anymore. And so it's, where Alicia kind of has her own found friends, and her cousin and like things like that, because she's in like Jimmy, she's a little off of the beaten path,
right? And
needs her own family in order to support herself, her unique self.
Yes, totally agree. I loved Mo and Bixby. They bring something that I don't really want to talk about so much, except to allude to it.
Allude away.
They bring something to Jimmy's world that was really loving to read. Yeah, because they bring themselves, and they understand Jimmy, and that was really, really well done. So I congratulate you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I love I love those two guys. Like I love all the characters. Yeah, no, I love how like Mo brings a certain kind of perspective for Jimmy. Gordon Bixby brings a certain perspective for him. You know, he's more of a father figure. Mo's maybe more of a brother figure, and they help really ground him, because like I think Jimmy's still gonna spiral. Jimmy, he's gonna spiral out, but they're both there to kind of like pull him down when he needs to, and just like, but at the same time they're not like.
No, precisely, and I think that was the thing that appealed the most. You know, they brought something to Jimmy that no one else could bring. Maybe Erica was close because that's Jimmy's sister, because she loves him so much. But they bring a male energy as well to him. And I will also commend you that I think it would have been far easier to write Jimmy as a little bit misogynistic, and you don't do that, and I really do appreciate that. I can read a book about misogyny. I don't have a problem with that. But I think Jimmy perhaps would have gone off the rails with that component. So I congratulate you there again as well.
Well, I think there's like, I think what I'm going to congratulate myself on is like, I mean, I love mystery, and I love like the private detective, and I love the first person narrative. Like I can't imagine writing this book in a different way. But I will say, like, sometimes, like, it's very easy to stumble across the mystery, the PI who's so hard boiled and so and every everything he sees and hears and talks about is just ugly. And I'm not saying that ugliness doesn't exist in the world. Obviously it exists in the world, and obviously there's a place for it in books. But like, I guess I wanted in my book, I didn't want that. I didn't want just purely the ugliness of the world. Which there's some ugliness in this book, like, and there's ugliness in the second book. But there's also beauty in the world. So like, I just feel like after a while, like reading some mysteries that are just so cynical and so like, you just get ground down. And I firmly want this series to be always on the way up. I don't like, it's the, I mean, I don't know how many I'm going to write, but like, it's always the journey of these books is a redemptive arc for Jimmy. Like, it's always about him healing, like him being a better person, rather than like, oh, the world sucks. Read my book too.
Right.
Like, you know, so I can't see Jimmy being, you know, a misogynist on purpose. He will probably say, you know, do dumb things, and he's been, you know, well, I mean, there's a woman from the past enters into the book, you know, and they had so I mean, he can still be a toxic person because he's a mess. But like, you know,
and I thought that was a very important thing in the book as well, because in Jimmy's world, we see that he has boundaries to set, whether it's work boundaries or personal boundaries or whatever. And you created a character who definitely has flaws, and we need those characters to come along and to ignite those flaws so we, the reader, can see them. So I did not like her, just so we're clear.
I don't think she's necessarily she wasn't meant to be like, oh, I really love her. But,
she could be killed off in a future book.
Yeah.
So, are you working on something now?
I am. I'm. Well, the file is closed, but yes, I'm working on the second book right now. I'm hoping to have it out in the spring. It's called Big Fucking Deal. Which will kind of have a, you know, because I love that there can be with that, like, he's a big fucking deal, or like, big fucking deal. Yeah, right. So we'll kind of play with that. So he, you know, it's another big case. all I'll say right now is that it's a kidnapping case.
Okay.
So again, it's LA. It's Jimmy struggling, figuring out how to be Jimmy again.
I love it. I love it.
We'll see Mo again. We'll see his mom again. We'll see Erica again. It's kind of fun having a cast of characters that, you know, some PI stories just like, it's just the PI, but
right.
Like, you know, Mo, unless something happens to Mo is going to be in the books.
Mo better be in the book. I like Mo.
Mo is great. Like I like Mo.
Some poor authors get to hear Dan say, okay, this is Dan's opinion. So you get to be one of those, Larry.
Yeah.
So do you have a website or social media you'd like
to got them all.
Yay.
Yay. You can follow me on Twitter on Write Larry Write, on Instagram at Write Larry Write. There's a Facebook, I guess it's a group or a page. What are they called now, kids? I don't know. So you can go facebook.com/Write Larry Write. And then the website is Lawrence Allan Writes.com.
Okay.
And from there you can subscribe to my newsletter, which is on Substack, which is lawrenceallanwrites.substack.com.
And I will say it's a fun newsletter. I do subscribe, and it is a lot of fun. So
thank you.
Why Larry Write or Write Larry Write?
Write Larry Write and Lawrence Allan Write. It's. I mean, obviously, there's like, oh, Larry writes, but it's also kind of a bargain I make with myself, or not a bargain, a plea, okay. A plea with myself. That's better than or worse than a bargain. I don't know. You know, that is like, this is what you do. This is who you are. You write books. You write some short stories here and there, but you write. And that's who I've been for a very long time. Plays and screenplays and books, and so it's kind of a promise. Better than bargain or plea.
I like
promise to myself.
I like that.
It's a promise to myself that I write. Try to write every day, even if it's a few hundred words. But
it doesn't matter. It keeps us in practice. So
yes. And that's what it is. It's a practice. Like
it is a practice, and some days it's a labor. But you know,
is it a labor?
You can't birth without labor. At least that's what I've heard, anyway.
That's why I have a carpet on my floor, so I can lay down sometimes. So, what am I doing?
I love it. I love it. Once again, the book is Big Fat Fuck Up, and it's by Lawrence Allan. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Dan. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. Hang on for me, and I'll be right back.
Yep.
Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Out with Dan. You can find more information about this podcast and its host at OutWithDan.com, on Twitter at OutWithDan, and on Instagram and Facebook at GoOutWithDan. This podcast is hosted by Authors on the Air Global Radio Network, and the theme music is provided by bensound.com. Join us again soon for the next episode of Out with Dan.